All right, so here we are in front of our Hamilton Beach bread maker. It's been 3.5, almost 4 hours. And so what we're going to do is take the bread out. We're going to see how it came out. Now the last time, if you could recall what I was saying though, that the bread seemed to have come out a bit on the light side. So what I'm going to do here is just with a small twist, as you just see me do, a small twist, and then you just simply lift out the basket. As you can see, it's a little bit irregular in form, and also keep in mind though that this is the 1 pound loaf, so it's not actually going to fill this basket in its entirety. You could see also that as it rose and baked that it did separate from the sides, so it seems to me that this is going to come out fairly easily. It says to just simply turn it upside down, which I'm doing, and to give it a couple of shakes, which I'm also doing, and you could see right now that it is actually coming out pretty easily. Let me just get this out of the wire, out of the way, and here we are. So this is our loaf of bread. The the mixing paddle is actually still inside, so we didn't actually have to cut it out, which is pretty good. Also, a lot of times with these bread makers, you could get that paddle stuck into the bottom of the loaf, and it really can be difficult to take out. As a matter of fact, you would have to cut it out and to attempt to not take too much of the bread with it. So at this point, this is about as full of a loaf as you can get for the 1 pound bread, and here's the bottom of it. And yes, you could see where the paddle was. So there is a significant amount of bread that's missing from it, but at the same time, this is just something that you can't really get around. You could see also that there is some slight uneven browning of the bread. And it seems to me that overall, the top of the bread maker doesn't really get the same heat as the sides do. But of course, there's a reasonable explanation for that, because if you take a look at where the coils are that heat up, they really only go, probably about up half the sides of the bread. Now, what happens in the browning of bread or any other type of protein, you would really need to have somewhere around 325 degrees of heat. The reason why that is because proteins only brown at above 300 degrees. In the cooking circles, so that's actually called the Maillard reaction, and that's named after a chemist that understood that flavor compounds are much more concentrated when food and the proteins in food are browned. So let's just take a look actually how it's going to cut. And so I'll get a bread knife. And once again, you can see the stark difference between the lower sides of the loaf and the top of the loaf. You could also see that it's just a little bit unevenly distributed also through the top there. Seems like a little craters and so forth have developed. Now, I mean, the form of the bread is not quite as important as the taste, and since we are doing just a basic loaf, you're not really going to get a sophisticated taste out of this, but at the same time, what you really want is just an actual loaf of bread that you can eat. So let's just take a look. I'm cutting it with an 8-inch bread knife, and you could see the type of crumb, which is, I'm feeling it now, and it's soft. And the outside, of course, has though a nice hard shell exterior.
Still warm.
And it's still warm. And so, this is, pretty much the main goal of this. So, using the basic bread recipe, And, you know, just putting it, of course, I mean, this is bread, I would say, at its most rudimentary. But you know what? You could slice this up, you could make sandwiches out of it. And overall, I would say this is, in my book, somewhere to maybe about a B, you know, to B minus of an overall score. Decent enough bread to eat, but at the same time, I think would take a little bit more experimentation to get a loaf though that you know might personally enjoy. I guess that's bye bye for now.